All right, so now let's start talking about some definitions in trig. There are 6 basic functions, and these are definitions that you absolutely need to memorize. In geometry, you learn about 3 of them. You learn about sine of an angle, cosine of an angle, and tangent of an angle. I'm going to draw a reference triangle down here so we can refer to it. I know that this part of the triangle is my hypotenuse. Based off of this angle theta, this is opposite, and then this is adjacent. Now, my sine is going to be a ratio of 2 of the sides of this triangle. Sine is always going to be opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is once again another ratio of 2 of the sides. Cosine is going to be a ratio of your adjacent divided by your hypotenuse. And tangent is a ratio also of 2 sides, and in this case it's going to be opposite over adjacent. Now there's a lot of different ways teachers have taught to memorize this. SOHCAHTOA, S-O-H-C-A-H-T-O-A is how you spell SOHCAHTOA, because that would give you sine is opposite over hypotenuse. I personally like some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. This actually allows you to know what your sine, cosine, and tangents are. But that's only 3. There's actually 6 of them. So the other 3 are going to be the reciprocal. So I'm going to take the reciprocal of this. So sine, the reciprocal sine is going to be cosecant theta. And that's just a reciprocal. So this is going to be hypotenuse over opposite. Cosine, the reciprocal of cosine is secant, which is just a reciprocal, gives me hypotenuse over adjacent. And tangent, the reciprocal of this one is cotangent, and this will be adjacent over opposite. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see is people want to say that sine and secant are reciprocals. The best way to keep this straight in your head is S's and C's go together. Sine goes with cosecant. Cosine goes with secant. If it starts with an S, the reciprocal has to start with the C. The co part we'll learn later on has another meaning. But tangent, they're pretty easy. Tangent, cotangent, one's the reciprocal of the other. But sine, cosine, and cosecant and secant, you kind of get them flipped around. So sine starts with an S. So the reciprocal is going to start with the C, which is cosecant. Cosine starts with the C. The reciprocal is going to start with an S, which will be secant. So let's see how we can use this in a problem. All right, so let's look. I want to tell you to find the coordinates x and y when I tell you OP is 20 and theta is 40. So O is going to be my origin. So I'm going to draw this 40 degrees in standard position. This is going to be my theta right here. So this is 40 degrees. I need to draw my reference triangle. So I'm going to pick a point on the terminal side and go perpendicular to the x-axis. I'm going to label this is x, this is y. And I know that OP, because this has got to be point P, and this is O, is the length of 20. So now I just need to find what x and y are. Well, this is easy enough because I have 40 degrees. Opposite is my y. I know that sine is opposite over my hypotenuse. So I can actually say sine of 40 degrees is my opposite y over my hypotenuse, which is 20. Solve for y. I get y equals 20 sine of 40 degrees. And when I do those calculations, I get approximately 12.86. 12.86 units. So now I know what y is. I can go ahead and I can still calculate my x. I know x is adjacent. That's cosine. So I could say cosine of 40 degrees is my adjacent over my hypotenuse. Multiply both sides by 20. I have 20 cosine 40 degrees. When you throw that in a calculator, you need to make sure your calculator is in degree mode. You will get 15 0.32 units. Now, the reason why I say units is because I don't know if that's 20 inches, 20 centimeters, it's just 20 units. That means this is 15.32 units, and this one is 12.86 units. So that's how you would use sine and cosine in reference with a reference triangle from an angle and standard position to actually find the coordinates of point P. All right, let's work another example. Here I want to tell you the OP is 30 units long. My angle that I need to draw is 260 degrees. And point P, I need to find the X and the Y value. So the first thing I need to do is draw 260 degrees in standard position. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to rotate 260 degrees. There's 180, 260 somewhere in here. So this whole angle right here is 260 degrees. I'm going to draw my reference triangle right here. Now I need to find that angle, and we know that the sum of the three angles are going to be equal 180, so we can't use the 260. But I know the straight angle here is 180 degrees, so I can do 260 minus 180, which gives me, what is this, 80 degrees? That means this little part right here is 80 degrees. So my point P, X comma Y, as I go in and start filling this in, I know that this has got to be a negative X because I'm going left on the X axis. This needs to be a negative Y because I'm going down on the Y axis. And I know that's 80 degrees. And I know that my OP is 30. And now all I do is solve. I'm going to do the same thing. I know that sine of 80 degrees is going to be my opposite over my hypotenuse. Notice I just ignore the negative sign because I know the answer's got to be negative because it's in quadrant 3. I just do 30 sine of 80 is my y. Therefore, my y is going to be approximately, I've already calculated these, to 29.54. So this y right here is a negative 29.54. To do my x, I would just simply do cosine because it's adjacent. Cosine of 80 degrees equals my adjacent over my hypotenuse. Multiply both sides by 30. And once you throw this in a calculator and crunch the numbers, you get about 5.21. But because we're in quadrant 3, we know that this is negative 5.21. You have to be careful of your signs. You got to make sure, be mindful of what quadrant you're in, because when you do this, you're going to get positive answers, but make sure you're giving me the correct sign based on the quadrants. Hi, I'm Mr. Buzzard, and these videos are supplemental instruction for my students. If you found the video enjoyable, make sure you click the like button and click subscribe, as well as the bell for notifications to receive future videos on high school mathematics.